Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this episode I will be making a cutting board for my mother since the one that she's been using is quite brittle and started to split. So join me in the next few minutes and I hope you'll enjoy as I'm walking you through this project. So I begin this project by trying to find as much scrap woods as I can. I must say that sapele has a very nice smell, even nicer than walnut. They're totally different smells, but it's a pleasure to work with. So here I'm just trying to bring down the mahogany to size, and I'm getting them to the final height, thickness I should say, of the board. I'm using mahogany, sapele, also I'm using red oak. I have purple heart, some paduk, and poplar, and a little bit of walnut for this cutting board that I'm building. I added this piece of plywood because the block of paduk is a little bit too thick, and the blade of the radial arm saw would not start without giving some clearance. Here I'm using my paduk block as a backer board for the purple heart, so I'm basically gang cutting the two blocks at the same time. But I chose to stop the saw because I didn't want to risk any wood flying over since I was performing quite of a difficult cut. Over at the planer, I'm just bringing the exotics down to consistent thickness. And a scrap of walnut here that I'm cutting at the radial arm saw and resawing it at the table saw. A quick view, and it took me quite a while to decide how I wanted all of the pieces laid out. You can get quite carried away when trying to arrange to come up with a design that is pleasing to the eye. I'm setting up a feather board over here since I'm resawing this piece of poplar, and went quite smoothly, I could say. Here I'm just cutting it down to length, and a little bit more walnut to match the other side of the cutting board, and some more poplar. Just to add a little bit to the width of the overall cutting board, I'm adding some more sapele scraps that I had laying around. And here I'm just bringing it to a consistent thickness. If you're wondering why I'm not using my overarm dust shroud, it's just simply because I have to redesign it, and it works fine for cutting sheet goods, but when I'm trying to saw narrow strips, it just gets in the way, so I had to just move it. I'm starting to set up for the glue up.
Restricting the supplement industry.
There's a gentleman on YouTube that I saw using gloves to spread out the glue, and it works quite nice. I use my hands for most of my glue ups that require gluing up on small narrow pieces. Only if I can get these pieces to stay. I'm trying to clean a little bit of the glue. Of course, there's going to be a lot of squeeze it underneath, but it's okay. I'm going to sand it anyway. So over here, I'm unclamping everything the next day. I gave them a good 12 hours to sit. And using 60 grit sandpaper, I'm lightly sanding the surface gradually just to take out the excess glue, so it won't be too hard on my planer once I will take it to final thickness. So here I'm just cutting away the excess, and I get to see a glimpse of my cutting board. And it's back at the thickness planer. Yeah, I really need to build a stand for my planer. And one final square up on the table saw. I sanded the surface up to 320 grit, and I must say, working with close grain wood is just a pleasure. I built this router table about a month ago, and this was actually the first time that I got to try it out, and I was quite pleased with it. Having a router table is just indispensable, but I went for a long time without it, and that just goes to tell you that even though you might not have all the tools, you can get things done, but having the right tools will enrich your experience and your speed of work 100 times. So I set up a stop block at the beginning, but since I don't have two, I made sure not to go past the middle of the board. And then I took the stop block on my second run and moved it to the other side, making sure I still had about 5.5 inches, so my point of stop on the groove will be just as on the other side. It's time to change the bits, and I installed a round over bit. I believe it was a 1/2 inch round over bit. I don't have a router lift yet, so for now I just have to unmount the motor and tighten it from the top of the table. Here I'm just rounding over the top edges of the cutting board. Another thing that I didn't set up is the dust collection for the router table. I really want to make sure that I will position it in the right area of the garage, since space is somewhat limited. So before I'll do dust collection, I'll make sure I'll have a semi-permanent home for the router table. Here I'm just sanding out the grooves. I didn't have any problems with burn marks, but I just wanted to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. Although the machining was quite smooth. I actually get to use my branding iron. This was made by a amazing machinist, and I ordered it, and it was a limited amount of irons that he was making for this year, and it's just amazing craftsmanship. I'm using this butcher block finish that I got at Home Depot. It is basically like an food safe oil, and I believe there's some beeswax in there, and it's just enriches your wood. It comes out quite beautiful. The legs I got at Home Depot as well, and I swapped out the screws that it came with stainless steel screws, so that way the cutting board won't slide on the counters. And there it is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wanted to add that this is actually how I got into woodworking. About 4 years ago, I stumbled upon Steve Ramsey's video on how to make an end grain cutting board, and that's when I realized the possibilities that woodworking can bring, where you can build custom projects for your house, for my art studio, and you name it. And I developed a love and passion for it very, very quickly. So I just started learning, reading, and watching more videos about it. And here I am talking to you today. So I just want to encourage you to go ahead and pursue whatever passion you have. If you feel a calling inside and something draws you towards it, go ahead and pursue it. Don't worry about not having enough finances, space, time, or equipment. It will follow in time. Today is the solar eclipse, so I'm sure everybody is going to be quite excited about it. I know I am too. And there will be a video next week on this channel on Sunday. It will be the first part of a longer build. So everyone, I hope you have a great week ahead of you, and I will see you next Sunday.